are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Farah Iftikhar. The Flowers of Shakespeare by Esther Singleton. Carnations and Gilliflowers. Carnations, Dianthus caryophyllus. Perdita calls carnations and streaked gilliflowers the fairest flowers of the season. Carnation was originally spelled coronation because the flower was used to make crowns, garlands and wreaths. In the days of Pliny, it was called dianthus or flower of Jove and was also worn in wreaths and crowns. From Chaucer, we know that it was cultivated as the clove gilliflower in English gardens, and because it was used to add a spicy flavour to wine and ale, it acquired the popular name of sops in wine. Hence Spenser in his Shepherd's Calendar sings, "Bring hither the pink and purple columbine with gilliflowers. Bring coronations and sops in wine worn of paramours." And again, "Youth's folk now flocken everywhere to gather May baskets and smelling brewery, and home they hasten the post to dight, and all the kirk pillars in daylight, with hawthorn, buds and sweet eglantine, and garlands of roses and sops in wine." Its second specific name, writes Ellacombe, caryophyllus, i.e. nut-leaved, seems at first very inappropriate for a grassy-leaved plant, but the name was first given to the Indian clove tree and from it transferred to the carnation on account of its fine clove scent. Its popularity as an English plant is shown by its many names: pink, carnation, gilliflower, and easily traced and well-ascertained corruption from caryophyllus, clove picote, and sops in wine, from the flowers being used to flavour wine and beer. There is an historical interest also in the flowers. All our carnations, picotes, and cloves came originally from the single Dianthus caryophyllus. This is not a true British plant, but it holds a place in the English flora, being naturalised on Rochester and other castles. It is abundant in Normandy, and I found it in 1874, covering the old castle of Falaise, in which William the Conqueror was born. I have found that it grows on the old castles of Dover, Deal and Cardiff, all of them of Norman construction, as was Rochester, which was built by Gandalf, the special friend of William. Its occurrence on these several Norman castles makes it very possible that it was introduced by the Norman builders, perhaps as a pleasant memory of their Norman homes, though it may have been incidentally introduced with the Norman cairn stone, of which parts of the castles are built. How soon it became a florist's flower we do not know, but it must have been early, for in Shakespeare's time the sorts of cloves, carnations and pinks were so many that Gerard says, "A great and large volume would not suffice to write of every one at large in particular, considering how infinite they are, and how every year every climate and country bringeth forth new sorts and such as have not heretofore been written of." Parkinson speaks of carnations, pinks and gilliflowers. The number of them is so, he says, that to give several descriptions to them were endless. He therefore mentions a few favourites. Among the carnations we find the great orange or Old English carnation, the red or clove gilliflower, the yellow or orange tawny gilliflower, the grey hulo, the red hulo, the blue hulo, the grimelo or prince, the white carnation or delicate, the French carnation, the crystal or crystalline, the fragrant, the striped savage, the oxide carnation, the king's carnation, the granado, the grand pearl, and the great malvar, whose gilliflowers include the Leicester Garnet or Westminster, the Bristow blue, the Bristow blush, the red Dover, the fair maid of Kent or ruffling robin, the Queen's gilliflower, the dainty, the Brazil gilliflower, the turkey gilliflower, the pale pageant, the sad pageant, Master Bradshaw his dainty lady, John Witt his great tawny gilliflower, the striped tawny, the marbled tawny, Master Tuggy his princess, the feathered tawny, and Master Tuggy his rose gilliflower. The Tuggies had a superb garden in Westminster in which they made a speciality of carnations, gilliflowers and pinks. The flower upon which Parkinson spends his most loving description is the great Harwich. The enthusiasm of this old flower fancier who writes so delightfully makes us feel that the great Harwich is an English institution just as important as the roast beef of Old England or the English plum pudding. I take this goodly great old English carnation, he writes, as a precedent for the description of all the rest, which for his beauty and stateliness is worthy of a prime place. It rises up with a great thick round stalk divided into several branches, somewhat thickly set with joints, and at every joint two long green, rather than whitish, leaves turning or winding 2 or 3 times round. The flowers stand at the top of the stalks in long great round green husks, which are divided into 5 points, out of which rise many long broad pointed leaves, deeply jagged at the ends, set in order round and comely, making a gallant great double flower of a deep carnation colour, almost red, spotted with many blush spots and streaks, some greater and some lesser, of an excellent soft sweet scent, neither too quick as many others of these kinds are, nor yet too dull, and with 2 whitish crooked threads like horns in the middle. This kind never beareth many flowers, but as it is slow in growing, so in bearing, not to be often handled, which showeth a kind of stateliness fit to preserve the opinion of magnificence. What a delightful idea Parkinson gives of the conscious dignity of the flower! How vividly he brings the great Harwich before us and makes us love its green husk, its mottled leaves, its rich scent, and its curling horns. Gilliflowers, Parkinson continues, grow like unto carnations, but not so thick-set with joints and leaves. The stalks are more, the leaves are narrower and whiter, for the most part, and in some do as well a little turn. The flowers are smaller, yet very thick and double in most, and the green husks in which they stand are smaller likewise. The ends of the leaves are dented and jagged. Some also have 2 small white threads, crooked at the ends like horns in the middle of the flower. Others have none. Most of our later writers do call them by one general name, Caryophyllus sativus and Floss caryophyllus, adding thereto Maximus when we mean carnations, and Major when we would express gilliflowers, which name is taken from cloves, in that the scent of the ordinary red gilliflower especially doth resemble them. Divers other several names have been formerly given them, as Vitonica, or Bitonia altera, or Vitonica altibus, and Coronaria, Herba tunica, Viola damascena, Ocellus damascenus, and Barbarius. Of some Cantabrica Pliny. Some think they were unknown to the ancients, and some would have them be Iphium of Theophrastus, whereof he maketh mention in his 6th and 7th chapters of his 6th book, among garland and summerflowers, others to be his Dios Anthos or Louis Floss. We call them in English the greatest kinds, carnations, and the other gilliflowers, quasi-July flowers. The red or clove gilliflower is most used in physic, in our apothecaries' shops, none of the others being accepted or used, and is accounted to be very cordial. Some writers say that the gilliflower was a cure for pestilential fevers. Gerard writes, "Conserve made of the flowers of the clove gilliflower and sugar is exceedingly cordial and wonderfully above measure, doth comfort the heart, being eaten now and then." The Italian painter Benvenuto Tizio always painted a gilliflower in the corner of his pictures as his envelope, from which he is always called Il Garofalo. The word pink is derived from the Dutch word pinkster, Whitsuntide, the season a certain Whitsuntide gilliflower was in bloom. The pink was regarded as an antidote for epilepsy, and a vinegar made of flowers was used as a valued remedy for the plague. The Elizabethans also thought, if a conserve be composed of it, it is the life and delight of the human race. Our old friend Parkinson describes pinks as wild or small gilliflowers, some bearing single and some double flowers, some smooth, almost without any deep dents on the edges, and some jagged, or, as it were, feathered, some growing upright like unto gilliflowers, others creeping or spreading, of one colour, some of another, and many of divers colours. He gives double and single pinks, feathered or jagged pinks, star pinks, great sea gilliflower or great thrift, often used in gardens to impale or border a knot, because it abideth green in winter and summer, and that by cutting it may grow thick and be kept in what form one list. We also find single red sweet John, single white sweet John, double sweet John, single red sweet William, double red sweet William, speckled sweet William or London Pride, deep red or murrey colour, sweet William, and single white sweet William. These, he adds, are all generally called Armerius or Armeria, yet some have called them Vitonica agrestis, and others Herba tunica, Carlatia, and Chorophilus sylvestris. We do in English in most places call the first or narrow-leaved kinds sweet Johns, and all the rest sweet Williams, yet in some places they call the broader-leaved kinds that are not spotted Tolmanus and London Tufts, but the speckled kind is termed by our English gentlewomen, for the most part, London Pride. We have not known of any of these used in physic. These spicy pinks and luscious July flowers, and the simple sweet Johns and sweet Williams as well, recall the lovely lines of Matthew Arnold. Soon will the high midsummer pomp come on, soon will the musk carnations break and swell, soon shall